Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Why is it so fun? Post your experiences, fun stories, how easy it is to get a lift in your country. Best countries to hitchhike, longest rides you have been on. A long time ago I hitchhiked all across Canada and back. On the way back in northern Ontario between MITZU and Wawa, I misjudged the terrain and went to sleep burrito style, sleeping bag a tarp rolled around me. The spot I picked was a slight depression. Huge thunderstorm, my burrito is waterproof and I'll go back to sleep. Wake up wet and cold, my burrito is now a puddle. Unroll, get out of sleeping bag, find a spot beneath a tree that is drish, set tarp to make shelter, change clothes, try to get my sleeping bag to dry. Next morning it was still raining, a very bad spot for hitchhiking, no traffic. No town to walk to for 100k walk. Anyway, I have to keep warm. This goes on for 3 days before I get a lift to a gas station. I am tired, cold and fed up. I catch a Grey Goose bus to make the last leg to my hometown and sleep the whole 12 hours. Later learned that stretch had a reputation for being a dead zone for hitchhiking. Same Canuck here. On first leg across I learned to never hitchhike after dark for 2 reasons. One was picked up by a drunk driver and legit thought I would die. He was swerving across the divider all the time and there were logging semis in the opposite lane. Had to dream at him for what felt like hours for him to stop and let me out. A weird couple invited me to their cottage so he could watch me sleep with his wife. They let me out right away when I told them no and that I wanted to end the ride. So yeah, no more hitchhiking at night. I don't think I have any photos. Back then they were all physical medium. Anyway, the highlight of that trip was Lake Superior. On the first leg across, I was dropped off the edge of the lake and there was a tavern right there. So I set up my burrito and went to have some brewskis. Ended up playing some pool and having a great time. Around round 9 the sun is setting, so I said bye. Woman says if that is your gig on the beach, the people always come round at 5, you should camp on my land. Lots of witnesses, lady not creepy, so yeah, I accept. Great call. The next day, have super breakfast with the lady's family, then they take me dirt bike riding. I spent a week there by Lake Superior, swimming every day. 2 other people from the tavern say I can set up on their land if I wanted to. That was awesome, just enjoying the outdoors, shooting pool and getting to know great people.
Hitchhiked up and down Oregon and Northern California. The 101 is easy to hitch on. Never waited more than half an hour. Most of my adventures were hitching with my now ex-wife and our dog. Best ride was out of Canyonville, Oregon during a massive wildfire. Wife, dog, and I were heading up to the on-ramp with our sign and these 2 dudes immediately pulled over and we hopped in. They were on their way to do 2 weeks of fire watch at a remote outpost. They drove no less than 90 miles per hour the entire time and passed around joint after joint. Let us out in Grants Pass and even gave us a few handfuls of weed and rolling tobacco. I've plenty of other stories about hitching if anons and friends are interested.
Sure, share more anecdotes.
Okay, so here's what happened prior to being picked up. My wife, dog, and I had been living out of our vehicle for most of 2017. After our car bit the dust in Corvallis, Oregon, we were forced to hitchhike back to Medford, Oregon. Luckily, we had camping gear and hiking packs. When we reached Cottage Grove, we came across some fellow local hobos and after sharing a joint, inquired about safe places to crash for the night. Enter Crazy Chris. Crazy Chris was a tall native that smelled like a vodka distillery. Chris says he knows a spot and leads us to a literal fort inside of the biggest briar patch I've ever seen in person. Imagine an impenetrable wall of briar higher than your head. The entrance was a plug of sorts he made from gluing briar branches to a circular piece of wood. He moved the plug and we walked through a tunnel that he had meticulously hacked through. That led to dome-shaped opening in the middle of the patch. It was actually pretty clever. He made partitions from tarps and had several portable power supplies and these dollar store LED lights that were powered by a single double A battery. We ended up staying a few hours but dipped out after Crazy Chris started acting. Well, crazy. We fled just before dawn and some elderly couple ended up buying us coffee and donuts. Pick related. It vaguely looks like the briar tunnel Crazy Chris had made.
I haven't done it myself but used to make a point of picking up everyone I'd see. The most interesting thing that happened was that I accidentally picked up a hooker. At a major intersection in a suburb, an older blonde had her thumb out. Dressed normally, jeans and a blouse. Said she was in a band and needed to get to a bar for a show. She hopped in, and I went around the corner and pulled over at a gas station to type the address in my phone. She kept asking if I wanted to be her friend. I don't remember what I said to her, but she didn't do anything. I think she realized I was just a kid. I finally got the map. It was a bar that was like 500 yards from the gas station, went over and dropped her off, and went on my way. I felt dumb after the whole thing, but like, why are you trying to pick up Johns in a suburb, by pretending to hitchhike? Completely dumb, man. There was another time I picked up an older fellow with a club foot walking down the side of the highway. This was legit sad. He worked at a Burger King 20 miles from his mom's home, and she could only drive him to work, so he walked down the highway every night. He worked until someone helped him or the cops took him home. I know people lie all the time, but this dude was legit in the middle of nowhere, highway, with a club foot. Holy shit. Drove him home and made sure he got inside. I know living in America sucks for some people, but damn. Every other trip besides those two was just taking someone from point A to point B, evenly split between actual hitchhikers and drunks that severely underestimated how far they had to walk to get home. One guy was like 10 miles away from his friend's house, walking at 2 a.m. in a snowstorm with nothing but a sweatshirt on. Felt like I might have saved that guy. That was a bad situation to be in.
Always hitchhike somewhere where you can be seen from a good distance and there is a clear space for stopping. Lots of cars will pass you up if they can't see a reasonable spot to park, especially if you're doing it by a very busy road. Person driving the car has maybe 10 seconds to decide if they want to pick you up. Most likely they won't bother with you if they can't do it conveniently. To add more on being visible from a distance, try a place where you can see the road for at least a couple hundred meters and ideally be in a spot where cars can slow down. The most ideal hitchhiking spot is a long bend with good visibility. It both forces the car to slow down and makes you visible. So if someone is pondering about picking you up, they have more time to decide. Wear good clothes and be clean. I can't stress this enough. No one wants to pick up a smelly guy. Look like a tourist, not a bum. Even if it means looking a tiny bit like an Uber normie. Try using signs if you can help it. Buy 1 or 2 Sharpies. They run out surprisingly quickly if you use them often. You can always find cardboard in recycling bins and behind supermarkets. The latter is an especially reliable source of cardboard. For example, in Aldi they display a lot of stuff in cardboard boxes. Just grab one and get a big enough sheet for a placard. I like writing down cities maximum 50 kilometers away. If you're hitchhiking on the highway, you can try using long-distance signs. Short-distance signs have the advantage of finding a ride quicker and having a shorter ride time, just in case the person turns out to be weird or for whatever reason you want to exit the car soon. Never hitchhike after the sun goes down. You hitchhike as soon as the sun goes up and you finish around dusk. Why? More drunk people in cars, more troublesome people, etc. You don't do it for the same reason why you might walk down certain streets at daytime without much thought but might want to avoid at night. It is also very difficult to get picked up as you immediately look 10 times more sketchy just because it is dark. Just don't bother. You're probably also more likely to be hassled by police if you're unfortunate enough. Have a friendly and sociable demeanor. I'm a very introverted person, but I found it very easy to talk to people when hitchhiking and going out of my comfort zone. I avoid taking money and have only done it once, but expect people to offer. But I generally recommend turning it down. Try displaying your backpack in front of you, or whatever you are traveling with. It makes it clear you're traveling and you're just a 20-something person doing something cool as opposed to looking like an axe murderer. Don't take it personally if people don't pick you up. 100 cars will pass you up until someone picks you up. You will quickly learn to read someone to see if they're going to stop. If you feel really uncomfortable with a ride and if it looks sketchy, just turn it down. Worst that can happen is someone is going to tell you to screw off and then they'll move on. Having a sign doesn't help with this as it is difficult to bullshit where you are going, which is a quick way to find an excuse not to get in. Personally, I never had problems. The closest I had was a very quiet Hungarian family seated really weirdly. But nothing happened and they were just helping me. It was a little tense, but nothing happened. Don't look miserable and like a sad sack of shit. People are more likely to stop, even if it is just to talk, if you look like you're having a good time.
Slav here, hitchhiked for 2 whole years when I was a near-homeless teenage twink, pretty much on a weekly basis. Mostly shorter rides, no money for bus or train. My fondest memories are these 2. having to hitch a ride to get back to my school dorms I was living back then. It's about 2 hours ride. Sunday morning, so shit luck as traffic is very low. Very cold autumn day too, freezing my ass. Finally a van stops. Full of young guys who are obviously already heavily drinking. Including the driver who has literal beer bottle in his hand. I don't want to end up splattered around the tree somewhere. Still go for it. Guys are from military, returning from a party or something. Ask where I'm going. Explain. Great, we are going to X, which is even further along the way. Immediately get offered a bottle too. Why not? Driver nearly crashes for like 5 times, thank God for low traffic. Get hammered with them, good fun. Driver gives me his number if I want to catch a ride next time. They drop me out right in front of the building. Drank too much too quickly on empty stomach. Go in showers and puke all over it. Went with them 2 more times. Story repeats. And second. Sleeping over my friend's place, again need to get back to the dorms. Medium-sized city, get a ride pretty quick. It's older lady in her 40s. She invites me to sit in the front. Have to force myself to stop ogling her. Very pleasant talk with her, she is a cashier in a mall halfway to my destination. Think she kind of likes me. Decide to try my luck. Tell her I'm still at school, but since parents don't care too much, I am looking for a part-time work. Before we arrive, she asks me for a number and promises she will check for me. Fast forward 2 days. Unknown number calling, it's her, tells me I could work in the storage room of the shop if I want. Tell her yes. Ultimately end up dating and in 3 years relationship. Got a few bad ones too, but these were rare.
When I was hiking the Pacific Northwest Trail in Montana, my buddy and I were trying to get into town by evening. On the last day of the 5-day section, we were road walking and a little lost. We came around a bend, and there were 3 people standing around a Jeep with an open trailer loaded with bikes, kayaks. They asked us what we were doing and where we were headed. After some niceties, we said goodbye and kept hiking. We had made it about 50 yards down the road when they shouted back and asked us if we wanted a sandwich. They set out chairs, gave us beer, peanut butter and jellies, and an eighth of weed for my friend. I don't smoke. They were amazing people, and we swapped stories and laughed for more than an hour. Eventually, they asked if we wanted a ride into town. We were trying to avoid skipping miles, but the offer was too good to pass up. We sat without feet hanging off the side of the trailer, flowing down the road. A little drunk, wind in my face, with music blaring was one of the most singularly blissful moments of my life.
Okay, this isn't creepypasta, but after reading some I realized a few of these were reminiscent of a time I was hitchhiking. Been hitchhiking for 6 hours. Finally make it out of Oregon into North California as sun goes down. Dropped off in middle of nowhere. Ride gave me directions to I-10. Get to stepping. Walking through forest following alongside a back road. Keep hearing something running off in the distance. Dismiss as a deer. 20 minutes pass. Spot someone's silhouette in the moonlight standing in the road. His head snaps around and he looks right at me. Got that 1,000-yard stare on his face. Was a kid, couldn't have been older than 15. In an enthusiastic voice he calls to me.
Hey, Steven.
The look of PTSD didn't even slightly leave his face as he said it. Unsettling as hell. I walked over to the side of the road. I'm not Steven. Are you lost out here, kid? He responded yet again with the same enthusiasm that contradicted his expression.
What are you doing out here?
My mind was telling me to help this kid, but my body was telling me nope. JPG. I'm hitchhiking. Wait, don't change the subject. What the hell are you doing out here alone? His head cocked to the side as if confused. Just stares at me for a while. Finally says,
What's wrong, Steven?
I start to lose my patience. And not Steven, all right. Where the hell are your parents or whoever you're with? I got somewhere to be. His expression changed slightly. Instead of PTSD, it gave off a what the hell did you just say to me feel. In a demanding voice, he says,
Stop it, Steven.
He started slowly walking towards me, saying stop it, Steven, over and over. I back up into the woods a bit. The kid bent over and picked up a rock, raised it up past his head, and kept on towards me. Please, I've had enough of this. Front kick the shit out of him, out cold. Keep on walking, he'll be found eventually. Look back after a while, he's gone. Finally make it to I-10.
What can you guys tell me about phantom hitchhikers? I think I had an encounter with one. Be me last week. Be driving home to Oregon. On highway somewhere in western Arizona. I think I was getting close to the California border. Nothing but desert, practically flat. Hot as shit. I'm drinking shitloads of water. See nothing interesting for miles. A car here or there. About 30 minutes drive from the last little town I passed through. See this guy with a sign. Guy can't be older than 20. Sign says he's trying to get to Bakersfield, wearing a UC Boulder shirt. He has like a half-empty milk jug-sized container of water. Small backpack, beat-up running shoes. I can't just leave him out here like this. Get knife out of glove box and put it between my legs just in case. Pull over. Hey, man, what are you doing out here?
Just trying to get home, man, Bakersfield.
Seems nice enough. Young college-looking kid, don't know what he's doing out here. I'm passing through there. Don't want you to die out here. Starts getting in back seat. No, you get in the front seat. I don't know you and I want you where I can see you. Guy does that nod the head up thing like when people say sup. A little chatting, mostly quiet. Says he got himself stuck in Tucson, just trying to make it back home. Don't question it. I've gotten myself stuck in some dumb shit before when I was younger. Asks if he can use my cell to check in with his mom because he hasn't called her since Tucson a few days before. Sorry man, no service out here. I do have some bad service. But I don't want him messing with my things. We keep driving, I put some music on. Small talk, silence, etc. I let my guard down somewhere in the Mojave in California and stop paying attention to him. He's just looking out the window. Sometimes talking about how much he misses home. Look over and he's gone. No traces, seat's cold, should be at least warm from the sun.
OP, I never picked up a hitchhiker myself, but here's my story. Be me, driving to Denver from Colorado Springs at 3 in the morning. Springtime, so pretty good temperature outside. Roll the window down. Hit the spot of road where there is no cell service. Notice a dark figure on the right shoulder of the road up ahead. Maybe a deer. Get closer, it's a person. I slow down, as to prepare for evasive maneuvering in case they go into the street or something. As I pass, I hear the person scream frantically. Stop! Help! Brake hard on the shoulder. Look in rearview mirror to see if I can find the person. Can't see shit in the dark. I wait there for a minute. Still no sign of the person in my mirror. Think about getting out of the car. The worst feeling of dread flows over me. Nope. JPG. Noped all the way back home. Yeah, not too big, but still freaked the almighty fuck out of me. What's scary as shit about yours, OP, is the conversation. Like, just a regular dude, then gone.
Meet me around 16 driving with Dad and Collie. Driving to Yosemite. Dry land for a long time. No water or live plants, everything is dead. See backpacker hitchhiking. My dad give me a whole story why never to pick them up. Life lessons from dad.png. Driving more. See another guy in similar attire with the big sleeping bag and camp gear. He says how all the lowly hippies try to get rides. He says he used to backpack around Europe. My dad used to hitchhike and won't return the favor because it is dangerous. 5 minutes later. Another hitchhiker. Exact same gear as the one we just passed. Come to think of it, it has been the same guy 3 times. He waves at us driving by. It starts to get where we have to drive up huge inclines because mountains. See same hitchhiker twice more up in the mountains. Thumb out. Looking right into my eyes. Say, Dad, it's the same hitchhiker. He asks what I mean. I've pointed him out like 6 times, it's the same guy. He starts telling me about how he always used to hitchhike in Europe and that he backpacked across there in Mexico because people were nice enough to help him. He tells me a story about how he picked up the pastor at our church in Massachusetts on a random highway in Utah. He pretty much saved our pastor's life. It was a huge random chance for them both to be way out in Utah on the same highway at the same time. He says, screw it, we'll pick up this guy, it's getting late and it's obvious he's a hitchhiker. I'm like, what about what you said about them being dangerous? He completely forgets about telling me that he has sworn to never pick them up ever in his life. Guy gets in car. Makes small talk with Dad. I mention we saw him back in whatever the name of the last town we were in. He says yay, it's a nice place, it's quiet, not too far from the city though. Ask how he made it out here. Says I have some friends out here that help me sometimes. Other than that, it's just me walking. He says friends like it's a group of space alien demons. I'm not one prone to supernatural stories. I love reading them, especially weird road stories, but when they happen to me I'm always the debunker and not the believer. Except for once. Now I'm pretty even-tempered and unemotional. I don't generally react the way I did in this story, and I still can't explain what happened fully. But anyway, one night, a buddy and I were driving down out of the Colorado mountains back into the foothill suburbs where we lived. It was one of the really common mountain canyon roads you get on the eastern slope of Colorado along the Front Range corridor. Big tall steep cliff walls on either side of the road making it narrow, with super twisty turns and hairpins. It's always dark as shit out there too. So as we're driving, it must have been about midnight or 1 a.m. We round one of those twisty turns, and up ahead suddenly I see him. Some young guy, about our age. He's got short-cut dark hair, pale skin. He's wearing a red sweater, blue jeans, and tennis shoes. He's got one of those red coolers next to him on the ground. He's got his thumb out like he's expecting a ride. I don't know why, but I get the impression he's been crying. It bothers me because the road is so narrow and the guy is practically in the damned road. He could easily get hit. It's night and the guy is asking to get killed like this. I turn to my friend and I say, shit, maybe we should help him. It's not safe out here like that. My friend looks at me like I'm crazy and says,
What?
I point back where we'd just been and said, the kid, with the cooler, on the side of the road. Stop the car, let's back up and give him a lift. That's when I realized something was really wrong when my friend said,
What kid?
The guy was standing in a place where you couldn't miss him. There's no way my friend didn't see him. I told him to stop and pull over. Pulling over isn't really much of an option, so he sort of parked it half on the shoulder. I got out and looked back. As you all expected, there was nobody out there on that canyon road that night. I even walked back up the road a ways and there was nobody out there. I get back in the car, apologize to my friend, explain the whole thing, and he starts driving again. I could have handled this. I just had a hallucination. My eyes were playing tricks on me. Whatever. I could have handled it until I started bawling my eyes out. I don't understand it and I don't know why, but I just started weeping openly, crying hard, inconsolably. My friend started trying to see what was wrong with me, but I was just crying. Really, the next thing I remember is coming out of the canyon and just being aware again. I started wiping my eyes and I think the first thing I said was, what the hell? My friend was looking at me like I was a lunatic at this point and he said,
What did you mean?
I was confused and asked him what he was talking about, and he said,
While you were crying when you looked over at me and said that. What did you mean?
When I said what?
You said these canyons kill. What did that mean?
To this day I have no recollection of saying that. I have no memory of the drive down the canyon. Really, the last thing I remember is seeing that kid in the red sweater with the cooler standing too close to the road and weeping. Haven't been back on that road since that day.
Name of the road, general area, city, state, anything. Could be the energy of a residual haunting of a terrible accident that caused you to cry. When terrible things happen, energy supposedly gets left behind. If it becomes so prominent that it's haunted, you may feel the emotions that the people did at the time of the incident or whatever. Could be your case.
I could practically tell you the mile marker if my memory wasn't so fuzzy about the thing. Bear Creek Road, west of Lakewood, which is west of Denver. We were somewhere between Evergreen and Idledale, I think. It was dark and I wasn't driving, so I couldn't tell you exactly. We were coming down from Evergreen, so it was somewhere between Evergreen and C470. Right about there. In fact, that might be right where it was. Just looking at that is giving me the creeps.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.